Hello everybody, my name is Will, the cat's screaming in the background if you can hear that, and today we're playing some more Flyout. Today we're going to be creating a polymorphic wing in Flyout, which is not in the title because that is just a terrible title for a YouTube video, but it means that we're going to have a plane that can convert from a biplane into a monoplane mid-flight, and this is going to be an extremely challenging thing for me to build, so without any further ado, I'm going to get straight into that, and fingers crossed we can come up with something pretty cool here. And welcome to the time-lapsey bit. Today, we have a bit of a different time-lapse in the sense that it's kind of cut into two because I couldn't shut my mouth in the middle. So we're going to start off by creating the shape for the part that surrounds the actual mechanism for the polymorphic wing. This is going to be essentially a vertical sidewall with a hole cut out of it. That hole is going to house the wing, or the lower wing assembly, when it is retracted. Then when it's extended, you've just kind of got a weird cutout in the side of your aircraft. You can see me doing one at half height here. The problem with that, and the reason that I do change it in a second, is you need it to kind of connect to your upper wing in order to, you know, allow the bottom wing to actually snugly sit inside of it. Otherwise you're going to have a bit of the wing which is like connected via a triangle to the top. Yeah, you need it to go to the top. And also, you know, you could have done that mid-wing, but I felt like in biplane configuration that would have looked a little bit strange, and so we went for, when it is in a monoplane configuration, this is a words are completely failing me. It is a high wing. There's a name for that. It's like a gull wing, I think, or something along those lines. It's completely lost my mind. I've said it before in videos. We've made planes like this before. I'm sure you know what I mean if you're watching a Flyout video. But that is how it'll look when it is a monoplane, roughly. And you can see here when you put on the bottom wing, that's going to fit within this gap. And you can imagine that is the section that is going to fold upwards. And there's going to be another section on the end of this wing, which will make up the entirety of the bottom plane. It is going to be significantly narrower than the top plane, which does mean that it's going to be technically a sesquiplane. Which, if you don't know what a sesquiplane is, it is just a biplane where the lower span is significantly lower than the upper span. It's pretty common, to be entirely honest. I can think of a lot of biplanes that are technically speaking sesquiplanes. I don't know exactly when the barrier changes, but like, I don't know, is the I-15? The I-15 feels like it should be a sesquiplane, because those bottom span wings are quite a lot shorter than the top one. Anyway, this is a really significant sesquiplane, and there's no argument about the fact that it's a sesquiplane. But once again, the title isn't going to be, I built a polymorphic winged sesquiplane, because that's just a terrible, terrible title for a YouTube video. Absolutely, no one's going to click on that. You might think to yourself, I'd click on that, but no, you wouldn't click on a video called that name. That's an awful name. Anyway, look, there's the mechanism. Okay, so right now it might look a little bit silly, but you can probably see where this is going. We've got a set of two wings here, and the bottom one is just a root. We've got a hinge, and when we hit G, which is our landing gear key, and that will come into play very soon, you can see that this folds into the wing. Now, I need to make sure that this wingtip doesn't quite clip into the wing above. That's going to be important in a moment as well. And then that is pretty good. We've got these slots that cut out of the main fuselage, and these kind of fit inside of those. It's not a perfect fit. Frankly, I am not the world's best builder in Flyout, so you're probably going to have to accept a little bit of jank, but I'm hoping through general design we can make it look like it's intentional. So, yeah, I'm going to carry on with this, and hopefully we can get the entire lower wing assembly done, and then we can work on the rest of the fuselage. Honestly, big smile on my face right now, because when I hit G, this is the action that the wings take. Oh, look at that! That's so cool! Okay, so we have a folding wing. Now, I'm going to try and make this a little bit more of a snug fit inside of this gap in the fuselage. Just try and shape it a little bit more. But that is almost perfect. I don't know if I'm gonna bother cutting out a hole in the bottom of the top wing. I could, but it's gonna take a really, really long time to do that, and I'm already spending a lot of time on this. Now, you're probably wondering where the landing gear goes. That's gonna go on this outermost wing, so it always remains vertically down, but when it's like this, it's basically gonna be flush with the the inner part of the wing. So we're going to just work that one out now. We might need another hinge that just does a very small bit of rotation to get it perfectly flush. Okay, so it looks a little bit ridiculous, but this is our landing gear assembly. You can see that as the wings retract, the kind of landing gear go inside the wing. You can imagine in real life there'd be some kind of cutout. It doesn't really make sense with these wheels, but don't think about it too much. We're just gonna roll with it, and it's still kind of cool, even if it's a little bit unrealistic. But it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, now we can get on with designing this plane. Okay, and now it's time for the more traditional time-lapse, which is where we do a little bit of actual design work on this aircraft. And what you'll very quickly see is that I've tried to kind of have a little bit of Soviet influence on this. It's kind of meant to look like the IS polymorphic winged aircraft. I think there's like the IS-2. It's called and bear with me, I'm about to butcher some Russian names. The Nikitin Shevchenko IS-2. It is not the IS-2 that you're thinking of, because that has a 122mm cannon. This plane doesn't have a 100... Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Now everyone's going to ask me to put a 122mm cannon on it. This plane can't fit a 122mm cannon, probably. Anyway, yeah, that has this mechanism. Basically the exact same mechanism. High-winged once it's a monoplane. The landing gear are in the lower wing, and it folds up, you know. I like it. It's a fun little plane. It has the engine from the I-185, and presumably it performed along the lines of like the I-180 once its wings were retracted in. I don't know why this got cancelled. I don't actually know that much about it. There is a video on this thing by Ed Nash's Military Matters, which is a YouTube channel that I watch quite a lot for little bits of entertainment which revolve around World War II aircraft. But I've not watched it yet, to be entirely honest, so I'll have to put it on my watch later and come back to it. But I don't know, I just saw this thing come up on the Weird Wings subreddit, I think it was, the other day, and I was like, yep, I'm building that. Nothing can stop me. I just decided to go for it. I was going to do a community creations today, but you know what? It's been ages since I actually built an aircraft in Flyout, so here we go. We'll do a community creations soon, trademark. It won't be too long, because we've got a fair number of designs to catch up on that I didn't get to include in like previous weeks, so there's that. If you do want to be in a community designs video, I've still not picked as of time of uploading which planes are going to be in the video, so if you've got something you've been working on, feel free to submit it. You can join my Discord in the link in the description below, and then you can put it in the Submit Your Flyout Creations Here channel, and that is what I look through for the Flyout Creations. You know, I just ask that you submit a zipped version of your blueprint and a picture of the aircraft so that I know what I'm dealing with before I download it. Wow, I didn't breathe for that entire sentence, and that has made me somewhat lightheaded. Here we go. So, I had to massively adjust how this thing looked at this point in time. I was not entirely happy with it. And what that means is, because I had this really fiddly mechanism for the wings, I had to completely redo the lengths of all of the joints in the mechanism. And let me say, that was not fun. I absolutely cannot recommend enough not doing that. Terrible, terrible idea. Get your plane the right size the first time. It was way too big. Way too big the first time. And potentially it's, I don't know, I think it's about the right size now. I don't really know. I didn't pay attention to the wingspan as much as I did in my last few videos, because ultimately it doesn't really matter how realistic this is, because it's a stupid little design intended to be different. You know, it's meant to get you to go, ooh, look, not be a particularly effective fighter, but you never know, it could be fairly effective. The principle is good. Like, in principle, having 2 wings at low speeds can be beneficial in terms of low speed maneuverability being better, also lower stall speed so you can operate from shorter runways. Good in the sense of it could be a good naval feature to have. You can have a lower wing that provides you a better takeoff run so that you can take off and land on a carrier much easier. But once you get into the air, you could have a little bit more top speed because you fold one of those wings away. Inevitably, I can imagine the problems with that being the fact that you now have a really, really heavy mechanism for deciding how you actually, you know, extend the wings. You've got to have these big hydraulic legs, and it's got to fill up basically the whole fuselage, and you've got to still have the structural rigidity for that lower wing and the upper wing to be separate without having the spars that biplanes have connecting the lower and the upper wings. So I can imagine weight is a concern. Also, complexity in terms of reliability is going to be quite bad. You might have a problem where one of the sides doesn't extend, and unlike with a normal plane where it's like, one of my landing gear doesn't extend, I'll just, you know, give it really hard right aileron and force the wing down until we get to a low enough speed where it's not going to be a fatal accident once the wing touches down. In this thing, if your landing gear doesn't extend, one of your wings doesn't extend, and all of a sudden, you got big problems. That is not just a problem to do with, you know, once you get low enough speed that your wings can't provide you lift anymore. You've got a problem that even while your wings are providing lift, the lift is not equal, and I don't know if any amount of ailerons are going to be able to control that. Maybe, just maybe, but yeah, that's not going to be a fun time for anyone involved in the piloting of these things. I quite like. So, right, I've been doing, on a complete change of topic, fuselage wings for the first time on this design, which I'm sure you've noticed, and I quite like the look of it with no like ailerons and flaps. Is that weird? Am I weird for that? It looks kind of cool. Having these like spiky bits coming off the back. I don't know what it looks like, but there was like a World War I think it was a monoplane which had that kind of a thing coming off the back. I don't know if it serves any aerodynamic properties at all, but yeah, there you go. It's solved. Solved? What? It's gone by the time that we finished designing this because I fill in those gaps with, believe it or not, flaps and ailerons. What a twist, I know. Unfortunately, for this video, I would like to just say, before we get there, because this was quite a pain to actually get working once it got into the air, aerodynamics were not happy. I had to do quite a lot of tweaking to prevent really, really aggressive tip stalls while it was on the ground. I had to go to the official Flyout Discord, which also should be linked in the description, and get some tips from a couple of the instructors over there because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Yeah, I seem to just be able to design planes with the worst tip stall characteristics ever. It was something. I didn't have any tip twist on the wings. They need to like twist towards the ground and relative to the core of the wings. The cat is attacking a zip tie, which has completely distracted me there. She has eyeballs the size of her head. Good lord, she's going to kill me. Okay, well, if this video never gets uploaded, just let me, you know, let the authorities know that my cat has in fact killed me. She is going insane over there. Cats, honestly, cannot recommend enough. I love this thing. I don't know why I love this thing. It's really annoying and it bites me sometimes, but I love this thing. Wow, there we go. I think we have successfully covered all of the tangent bingo cards that we have going on here. We've talked about the cat. We've talked about the aircraft. We've talked about something completely unrelated. Actually, no, here we go. We haven't really spoken about something completely unrelated. What's something completely unrelated we can talk about? I have been... anyone who's in the UK will know this. I have got... one of them velvetizers. I got it for last birthday, and recently I was like, we haven't had any of the stuff for it in ages. Let's get some, and we got the vanilla white chocolate. Oh, that's filthy. Absolutely delicious. I love a vanilla white chocolate hot chocolate, it turns out. Amazing. And honestly, Americans, you don't have Hotel Chocolat, I'm pretty sure, in your country. You're missing out. It might cost an arm and a leg, but boy do I feel indulgent when I do it. I feel like a member of the aristocracy when I have one of those hot chocolates. Absolutely amazing. 10 out of 10. Please sponsor me, Hotel Chocolat. This isn't sponsored, by the way, but it should be. I don't even want money. Just give me free sachets of the vanilla white hot chocolate. One of those 250 gram sachets a month, and that'll do me. I don't get through much more than that. There we go. That's the end of the time lapse. Glad you enjoyed that. But and here we finally have the finished product. This is creatively called the Polywing at this moment in time, because obviously polymorphic wings. You've not seen this thing flying yet, and it has been quite a gap between now and the last thing. We've had to do quite a lot of tweaking to get this thing to actually work. So inside here, you can see there are actually some wings with some twist going on. That gives me the aerodynamics that I need to make this thing work. So it's a little bit smoke and mirrors. And down here, you can see there's actually wings in there as well. We have separate flaps to the rest of the wings, because these are actually fuselage pieces. And we've given it some semblance of a paint job. It's very much inspired by like those I-185, I-180 kind of skins. I don't really know. It looks a little bit Russian in terms of the camouflage, but in terms of design, maybe a little bit more British, to be entirely honest. But either way, I think we're all ready to give this thing a fly. So let's fly it out. Crazy. Okay, here we are on the runway, and as you can see, we're in our normal kind of sescaplane configuration. If we hit the throttle here, we should fairly quickly get ourselves up into the air. We've got quite a lot of lift going on, and I believe we should leave the ground about 160-ish. There we go. Nice, comfortable takeoff. And we can retract our flaps and just trim it up a little bit. And you can see that we are flying like a perfectly normal biplane. We have two 50 caliber guns on the top here. Those could be used for dogfighting if you're so inclined. And the agility of this thing is nothing to particularly write home about, but it's not terrifyingly awful. It's fine. It's a fairly light aircraft, so realistically it should probably turn a little bit better, but I did have stalling problems. It could totally turn more if you remove the limiting on the elevator, but I had big old stalling problems, so it's somewhat limited because I am not a very good aerodynamicist. If you actually want good aerodynamics, why are you watching me? You should be watching Messier. He's just way better at this game than I am. Anyway, we aren't here to look at this thing flying around in normal biplane configuration, because obviously this aircraft has its little trick up its sleeve, which is if we hit the gear, we will then fold in the wings and become a high-wing monoplane. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not the most perfect transition of all time. I'm sure those that are a little bit more technically minded than I am would be able to do a little bit of a better job to that, but you can see that this has reduced our drag quite significantly, and we are now accelerating quite a lot more than we were when we had the wings extended, even more than this. So, yeah, you remove a wing, you got less drag. Visibility is not amazing down. You would really, really struggle if an enemy was below you, but above, fantastic visibility, and obviously, you know, it's fairly decent as a dogfighter, I guess. It's got a reasonable turning circle, even in monoplane mode. This is better than a lot of, like, later warfighters, probably a little bit worse than some early warfighters. I don't think it's too bad, and it's got a reasonable bit of power behind it as well, so, you know, there's your plane for you. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to land like this because your landing gear are part of your wings, but that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? You've just got these two modes that your plane is forced to use throughout the duration of a flight. What would be interesting to see is if somebody could pull something like this off, where the wings fold out into the other pair of wings. Maybe even on like a swept-wing jet aircraft. You could do it on, in theory. Which would just give you a little bit more performance at lower speeds and lower altitudes, and then you could fold it in for that good top speed once you get up to a little bit more altitude and speed. I don't know. Maybe it's completely stupid and ridiculous. I mean, it is completely stupid and ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, look at this thing. That is stupid and ridiculous. I also definitely think that this thing looks quite a lot better once you have the wings extended. It feels like it was designed to have the Sescaplane configuration, and then this is like... It just feels kind of wrong. We've designed a plane with a parasol wing like this one or two times, to be entirely honest. I do quite like them as a design. I think they're fun, even if they're not the most practical of aircraft in the world. So I was tempted to just modify one of those to have this configuration of wings, but nah, this is more fun, isn't it? Building a whole new plane is always a little bit better. But one thing I do want to ask you guys is, do you think this could work? Like, let's just say that we are setting this aircraft up to be in the same world as Chisford, for instance, our little fictional world. There's a map on the screen here. There you go. If this were a real plane, who would operate it? How would it operate? And would it be particularly effective? Feel free to, if it catches your interest, write a little something about it, and you can always join my Discord in the description below, where there is a vehicle lore channel where you can share a little bit of information either about a vehicle that I've built or a vehicle that you've built for people to have a read of if they're so inclined. But I do like, with something a little bit more wacky like this, but also somewhat grounded in reality, for, you know, people to have their own take on where this would be in the world. Personally, I don't see this thing getting past a prototype stage at any point in time. It's not going to be the most reliable mechanism in the world, and if your mechanism for your landing gear goes wrong, you've suddenly got like one of your wings extending and the other one isn't, which is pretty much a death sentence for the pilot. But speaking of death sentences for the pilot, that's about it, to be entirely honest. Other than the guns, there's not a lot going on this design, so let's bring it in for a landing and see if I can avoid killing my pilot. Okay, I am a little bit concerned that because of this thing's tendencies to really quite like to stall, that we might have a little bit of trouble landing here. We know that our stall speed is going to be around 160, and we have some pretty aggressive flaps to our disposal, which should help in just reducing that stall speed down a little bit lower. So we can hopefully bring her down pretty gently here. We've got quite the high angle of attack, so let's just lose a little bit more speed, and in theory we should start descending somewhat comfortably. Yeah, I mean, it's not going too badly. I don't actually know if it's going to land well at all. I don't remember if I even did brakes on this thing, but here we go. Come on, just touchdown, touchdown. Nice. Cut the throttle. Ooh, we got a little bit of stalling on the left wing there, but we're just about okay. And we'll just pull these flaps in to get a little bit more ground pressure. Nice. There you go. That is an aircraft that exists. And I think everybody is wondering, what happens if I decide right now to retract the wings? There you go. You can also extend them again. Look at that. You could basically do anything with this aircraft. It is the perfect aircraft after all. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, comment, and or subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. And you can always join my Discord in the description below if you want to download this aircraft. It'll be in the aircraft repository channel, and you can do your very own versions of it if you want, or you can fix it to not be so rubbish anymore. But that's all for today. Goodbye!
And as always, a huge thank you to YouTube super supporters Edwin, Yoki, Corvoid, Prince Casper 33, Flimsy Steve, Proto Series 1000, Eldoge, YT3744, Marlon Gwecken, Cruiser 25, Cody Fox, Peter Holmes, Peter Seifert, CamGem135, Stug3, and Terra. And a huge thank you to all the regular tier supporters as well.